Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Tewksbury Select Board meeting for Tuesday, November 4th, 2005. The time is 7 p.m. and we're about to begin our meeting. Before we begin, I invite everyone to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Let me see. The first scheduled item on our agenda is Market Basket Spirits LLC, 10 Main Street, change of manager. Would you gentlemen please come forward, give your name and association for the record, and then the floor will be yours.
Yeah. Good evening, Chair Kratman, members of the board. Kevin Butler from McDermott, Quilty, Miller, and Hanley here tonight on behalf of the licensee MB Spirits LLC. And joining me tonight is Stephen Rostowski, the proposed manager of record.
Okay, welcome. All right. So just briefly go through, I know we have the pretty full and complete package, but just explain what you're trying to do.
Yeah, so Mr. Rostowski has been with the company for 38 years and has a little over a month at this location. He's replacing Brian McCullough, who is being relocated to a different store, and there will be no changes to the operation of the license. Okay. Mr. Rostowski is TIP certified, a United States citizen, a resident of Haverhill, is experienced in the food and beverage industry, and is familiar with the laws of the Commonwealth, the rules of the ABCC, and this board for the sale and service of alcohol. Thank you, and we are happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. At this time, I'll open it up to the board. Anyone have any questions?
I have
Mr. Holland?
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I see in your employment information you were a store director. Were you a store director of the liquor store or the grocery store?
Oversee both.
Oversee both. So you do have experience in the sale of alcohol.
Not prior to this, no.
Not presently?
No, I presently do, yes.
Oh, you do? Okay. That's the only question I have. I just wanted to make sure that we had somebody with some type of experience in the sale of alcohol. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Anyone else?
I have no questions. Complete application. Thank you.
Anyone else?
No, same. Yeah.
All right. Then I'll open up to the board for any motions on this matter.
Want to close? I'll make a motion. To
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, this is a public hearing. Is anybody here would like to be heard on this? Seeing none, listen to a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing. Second.
We got a motion and a second. All those in favor, please state by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Now listen to motions on this matter.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the change of manager for Market Basket Spirits at 10 Main Street.
Second.
We got a motion by Mr. Holland, second by Mr. Mackey. All those in favor, please state saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Gentlemen, good luck.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
All right. Next item on our agenda is residents. Do we have any residents that would like to be heard? Seeing none, we're going to move on to new business. Trahan School project documents. Pass it over to you, Mr. Cohen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So you have four documents, actually you have five, but one is just a red line version of one of the other documents. So the one document you have is the payment in lieu of taxes, and that's a 30-year agreement with a 1% increase a year. So it's a 30-year term, starting at $30,000 in the first year and then bumping up incrementally by 1% throughout the 30-year term of the pilot. And the question has come up, well, what happens if the pilot expires? When it expires in 30 years, it's a 99-year lease, so what happens then? So if you look at the ground lease and the language in the ground lease on page 7, it talks about additional rent, which is taxes. They have to pay taxes regardless, unless there's a pilot agreement, which there is. So what happens when the pilot expires, it defaults to a regular tax bill. So the risk is on them, not on us. We'll get paid either a pilot or a tax bill one way or the other. But what will more likely happen is at some time between now and the 30 years, they'll renegotiate or extend the term of that pilot, and you guys can vote on it then, 30 years from now.
I'll put that note on my agenda, so when I'm here, I can take care of it. Thank you.
So that's the pilot itself, and then the ground lease, like I said, it's a 99-year lease. Now, this document doesn't get executed right away. None of these documents get executed except for the option to lease now, because they have to go through their process, getting their funding in place and getting certain landmarks before we can move into those other documents. But the option to lease locks them into all these other things. So the ground lease is the second document. The option to lease, which is the only one you have to execute tonight, is the one that really locks them into this and executes the award that you granted them several months ago. And then the land development agreement is the last document, and that was the one that has a red line version as well as the clean version. And this is the one that I believe it was Select Board Member Ryder had asked for assurances, and it's in there. It's called, let me find it. Oh, here it is. It's on page 2, under Article 1. The developer agrees to provide the town with collateral assignment of the approved plan. So that gives the town some security assurances on all of that, on those approved plans. That's what you had requested, Eric. And so that's the only change that was made to the documents, except for, cleaning up the dates and things like that. So basically, everything is clean and ready to go, and just for the edification of people, because most of the stuff took place in executive session because of the nature of the agreement and contract negotiation. So for the edification of people at home that might be watching, basically what this agreement does is it is an agreement that allows choice to lease this property, build 50 units, renovate and build 50 units on this site. And 45 of those units will be affordable. They're all senior housing units. 5 of them will be market rate. And they will also renovate the playground that's there. It will still be accessible to the public, as well as a walking trail on the site as well. So those are the elements of the agreement that's been taking place over quite a long time. So congratulations on getting to the end of the process. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
I'm going to open up to the board. Anybody have any questions or discussion on this? Okay, Mr. Holland?
So tonight, the only thing that we would be voting on is not the ground lease, but the option to lease. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so they can move forward, and we could make changes to the ground lease and/or the other agreement.
You can't make material changes, because that's what you're doing, is you're locking in all these other ones, but they don't actually take place, and we're not committed to those unless they get to those other milestones that they need to get funding and do those other things. And that's what the option to lease does. It's the roadmap for the rest, for all of these documents. But I don't want to give you the wrong impression that we can go in and change things. This is the the deal, or the agreement that we came to, and so there might be some insignificant changes that can take place, but I don't think there'll be any real material changes. Like, you can't change terms of the lease, terms of the
Right.
pilot, and those types of things.
I'm all set, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions, concerns?
Yeah, I have quite a few. So first, just clarifying, so this option to lease actually says, in all, as you mentioned, Mr. Town Manager, they are all intertwined. So it says, in each document, we simultaneously, here within the town and tenant, entered into the land development agreement. And you go to the LDA. LDA references another document. So once we approve this, we are locking in.
Yes, absolutely.
And I still think we have a long way to go on this. And my understanding from the beginning, and as was discussed previously, was this was to be a 30-year lease, not a 99. And when that came up during the past discussion, it was going to be looked into. So the fact that it's now going to 99, I have a number of questions about. When we went to town meeting, we said that we were doing this as an option, right? We need to do 2 home rule petitions, so we would have the ability to negotiate a great deal. We're giving the tool to the town manager, we're putting the tool in the toolbox, so you can negotiate a deal, select board can execute it. I don't personally think this is a great deal. We're taking 4.25 million out of the Affordable Housing Trust. How much is currently in the trust? Through the town manager?
I don't know the exact balance, but I can get it for you, but it's.
Is it close to that number?
There's a little bit more than that in there, yeah. I'll find out for you.
If I recall, roughly it was about $6.7 million.
Yeah, that sounds right.
So a little more than 2/3 the Affordable Housing Trust. I have a number of items on each of these documents, including the option to lease, that I would like to dig into before we execute this, because even with the option to lease, for $1, we are we're locking this up until 2030. And there's no requirements on their part for them to go meet any milestones. There's no kind of performance objectives or goals associated with it. So if anything goes sideways and we have no recovery options in this, the parcel's locked up till 2030 and we can't do anything. So if this new entity that's being stood up has any issues, we're stuck until 2030. Additionally, talking to the other documents, we approved Choice as one of the applicants. Now Choice is handing it off to a new entity that is being stood up with no assets. I know this board, myself included, needed a flow chart and an expert to explain to us how this is all going to operate, which is not what we were initially pitched. So I'm not comfortable with this entire packet of documents, and I think we have quite a bit of ways to go to get a good deal. There was pushback on doing the 99 years, and we committed to making sure that it was a tool where we could go over 30 if we were going to get a good deal. I don't think this is a good enough deal to warrant us going to 99, especially because I don't know if anyone else had a previous understanding, but even in that last meeting, it was my understanding that we were not starting from a negotiating point of 99 years. So I will get off my soapbox, but I am not in favor of moving these documents forward at this time. Thank you.
Anyone else?
You want to go, Rich?
I guess, I don't have any questions per se. It was more on the comment of the 99-year piece as well. So 2 things, I guess. One is, a 99-year lease, essentially we're, disposing of it. I understand it's a lease from the standpoint of the legal documents, but essentially it's being disposed of, in the sense that we won't have any rights to that for that period of time. I guess that's the first thing. And then the second piece is, and I know, Mr. Kern, you've shared some of your thoughts on the pilot in terms of how that works out from a
Right.
tax liability standpoint, and I get it, some of that is, just trying to kind of make sense of making sure that the town is getting what it's owed to it. So when I kind of do that math out, we go 30 years, let's just say, at 30,000, add 1%, add the 250 up front, and, you're looking at roughly $45,000 on average over the course of each year. And so that, to me, says roughly we have an assessed value of about 4.2, I think, or I'm sorry, no, 2.8 million, 2.8 million. And so I don't know, is that right? Is that not right? I don't know, are we losing money because, that's not really what the assessed value is or becomes or grows to? I don't know. I think all those things are part of it. Again, these are just, I guess, some comments or thoughts. from that perspective. But I also know that this is how sometimes, based on the flow chart that they did share and provide, that's the structure of these types of arrangements. So, but again, I don't know that it's necessarily, the idea and the concept of the project is perfect for Tewksbury, but the intertwinings of it all, I don't know that it necessarily does right for Tewksbury. I guess maybe that's the best way I could say it. So I'll pass the torch.
Through you, Mr. Chair. I feel a little differently on this. We are providing a, $44.5 million roughly. We're getting, if you will, 45 affordable units. Senior housing, and senior housing in this town is very difficult, and it's at a premium. So roughly $100,000, what we're giving, $100,000 towards each one of those units. We do this, or I will say, this money has been used in the past to buy down units, and they can be, we just had one in front of us at last meeting. $200-something thousand. So this is something that the town is providing a service. It may not be all residents of Tewksbury. We will get some seniors that are from the town into that. But again, we're providing senior housing to people within the community. The intent of the affordable housing funds are to use it towards housing. This money has been sitting here, when I served on the planning board, when I got on there 7 years ago, that money was just still sitting there, not doing anything. And the risk, if for whatever reason that there is, this company doesn't get, by us agreeing to this, the option, if the developer doesn't get any of their funding, there's a lot of, in that flow chart, a lot of things were laid out, what needed to happen. This is, the first step in that. If for whatever reason, anywhere along that process, things go south, we have options to back out because it's based upon the agreement that they have to get their funding. And if they don't have their funding, this project doesn't move forward. They can't get funding for 25% of this project. We've been very clear, this is 50 units. So they need to go in there and get the funding for this entire project. And as you stated earlier, Mr. Curran, this is for 30 years. It can be renegotiated in year 28, 27. As we get closer to that.
Sorry, point of clarification, the pilot's for 30 years.
Yeah, I understand. No, I was getting
making
back
sure I was
to
on the
that.
right page.
The pilot is for 30 years. But if at that 30-year mark, they decide, or for whatever reason, they do not renew their pilot, we will be getting general tax revenue on these parcels. Am I correct?
Yes, yes.
So it's it's the benefit of this group or the groups, and as you stated, the flow chart was all put together in my opinion, it was clearly stated, and I understand in processes like this, there is a lot of moving parts and a lot of components to that. And I thought they did a very good job explaining that flow chart out to us of why they were doing this. I know a lot of work went into this. We had our consultant. Our consultant reviewed all this, and I don't feel that our consultant would put us down a path that would jeopardize the town in any way. So I understand we're giving funds out of our affordable housing trust, but we're giving it for affordable housing. It roughly $100,000 per unit. I don't know anywhere today that we can buy an affordable unit for $100,000. I just, they're not out there. I mean, and I understand we're getting $30,000, you know, with a 1% increase, the $250,000 up front. I feel that the goal was to bring affordable housing to that development, the old school site. And in my opinion, this is money well spent to provide housing to this community that is in dire need. There's what, a 10 or 15-year waiting list in Tewksbury for senior housing. Here's an option that we're putting 45 affordable units into the market. Again, as I stated, it's not all going to be all Tewksbury residents, but we will have Tewksbury residents that have the opportunity to apply to be able to stay in this community. And I think that is really one important thing. So in my opinion, I feel that this has been vetted out. You know, again, we hired a consultant to do this for us, and I felt that the consultant had the town of Tewksbury in their best interest. So in my opinion, this is, I've seen this in years past. I've seen it in other towns and other communities. And this is commonplace, and I feel that this is a great benefit to the town and the community, in my opinion, money well spent. So again, I'll pass that off to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Curran, first off, I want to thank you for all your hard work on this. I know you spent a lot of hours working through this in the background, working with our consultant to get this done. I concur with my colleague, Mr. Ryder. You know, I think the wait list, I think unless it's changed from any time I've heard, the last time I heard it was like 18 to 25 years for a wait for senior housing. It's absolutely ridiculous. And we sat here not too many years ago saying, what's the priorities of this community? And one of the number one priorities that we came up with was to find affordable housing, especially senior affordable housing, where we have such a senior population and people can't afford to stay in their community. This creates a place where it's going to be nice units where they're developing it. It keeps open space around the place. We're keeping the playground there so they can have their grandchildren come and visit or whatever it may be. It's going to be someplace where the residents can go and use the playground because it's even though they're leasing it, you know, it's going to be open to certain areas will be open to the public to be able to use of what's going on. And and it's affordable housing. That's the whole purpose of us taking, all this money came in fee of lieu of when we did all these developments in town. And where are you going to get another affordable unit for $100,000, as he said? There's no place that you're going to get that, where you're going to, it's an investment. I understand we're spending money, but we're spending money to house our own seniors. You know, we're building a place that's going to be a nice place in the community. It's going to be a welcome addition to that area. It's not going to cause a lot of traffic concerns, which was a big concern of the local residents. It's not going to be something that's going to be noisy, problemsome. It's something that we're going to absolutely reuse a building. And, you know, and the fact that, you know, if we hadn't done something with this, I know we were on the hook for like $2 million just to take the place down. That was the last estimates that I heard. Just to remove it, we'd spend $2 million that we couldn't use the Affordable Housing Trust Fund to go and tear it down to have an empty field. And then if we were going to turn it into a park or something like that, that would probably be at least another $1 million. And who's going to maintain it? Who's going to be there? Who's going to, like, and what it's, you know, what's the actual, what's the benefit to the whole community? What do we need? What's the priority that we need when we have an 18 to 25-year wait list for seniors? It's something that we can address. I don't know how many times people have come to us and said, why did we sell the old police department? Why did we do this? Why didn't we take it? Why didn't we do something like that? And now here we are doing something And I think it's something that's going to be benefiting the community. I think when it's all said and done, it'll be something that people will be wrapping their arms around, saying, this is a beautiful place. We have our seniors in a nice location. And it's, you know, like I said, I think it's a great investment. It may not be everything that everyone wants, but to me, I think it's spending this money wisely, as far as I'm concerned. I know there was a lot of comments and concerns on different things. I don't know, Mr. Coven, if you want to address any of the topics. I know you did a lot of negotiations, so I mean, there was some other things that have been brought up. If you want to address any of the comments, feel free.
Yeah, the one, I guess the one that I would address is, I know Select Board Member Russo talked about the pilot, the 30,000. And, you know, when I did the analysis on that, I had the assessor tell me what the value would be. And she, I think it was, I don't have the spreadsheet in front of me, but it was about $32,000. So then you go from there. So we costed that out, and they costed it out too on their end, but we did it on our end to see. And, you know, you plus or minus, you know, $50,000 to $100,000 over a 30-year period.
Immaterial.
It's not something that I would kill the deal over.
Yeah.
And, you know, when they gave us that $250 up front, that helped to close the gap between any issues with what they should pay in property taxes. So I think we're, you know, pretty close on what they should be paying for property taxes.
Okay.
And I know the 99-year lease is an issue for some people, but think about it. I mean, it's housing, right? So it's going to be there for 50 to 100 years regardless, because it's housing. And the real leverage or the real lever is in 30 years, what are you going to do? You know, and that pilot is really I mean, we don't want to be on the hook for any renovation to that property. We're putting in this money, but in 30 years, that $4 million will be an afterthought. And they'll be at a situation where they have to decide whether they want to try to negotiate a new agreement with the town to continue to provide the affordable housing. But they're on the hook to provide those units regardless of whether for 99 years. So even though the good part about the 99-year lease is that those units are in perpetuity for 99 years. So they're on the hook for that. So, you know, and unlike some other 40Bs, that once that 40B expires, they're all market rate. You got it locked in for 99 years. So that's the plus.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
If I may, I just want to clarify, I am 100% in favor of doing a senior housing project. I just don't think that this deal as it stands is the right one. That doesn't mean we don't do affordable housing on this site. It doesn't mean we can't do it. I'm not even saying we look for other partners. I'm saying we continue to negotiate this deal and try to get a better one. We know there are other partners out there. We had some of them present. We had applicants. We're not even talking about that. We're not doing the project. I'm just saying I don't think that this deal is the correct deal at this time to meet the goal. I believe the goal is still to provide senior housing at that site. I just don't think this is how we do it.
Thank you. All right. Any other?
I guess I'll through you, Mr. Chair, to Select Board Member Mackey. I guess what are you looking for in terms of what do you think is missing in this deal that is bringing hesitation to you? Like specifically that it may not be attainable. It may not be. So we have to really look at what we can get versus at some point in the near future, if we do not continue this process, if it's not this one, are we going to be able to get what everyone wants in an agreement with the next company or the next firm? But at some point, if it's not today, if it's not a year, it's not 2 years or not 5 years from now, we have liability on that property with that old building. And it's going to come to a point that if it's 1, 3, 5 years, residents are going to say, what's going on with this parcel? Now it's becoming, you know, an eyesore. It's becoming dilapidated. Next thing you know, we have, you know, kids breaking into it, you know, vandalizing. That's commonplace for a parcel that is going to stay vacant. And Then we get to that point and say, okay, now we need to take it down. God forbid something happens, now we need to take this down. Now we're talking $2 million today. I think it was 2.2 or $2.4 million from, Mr. Montori said, about 9 months ago. So we're at that point that we would have to take it down then. We don't want to get to that point. So again, I will go back. What is specifically that you feel is missing here that the consultant didn't really get us? So to help me understand why there's hesitation from other board members.
Absolutely. So I would say, I don't have a punch list. I have some notes on it. They're all stream of consciousness, so I'm not going to read them. But one of the overarching themes is more front-end security for the town, meaning at the beginning, when we assessed Choice and decided to move forward with Choice, before we got that flow chart with the new entities and the tax credits and how that all was going to work, that's fine. Again, that's how business is done. But we are exposed until the building is built, because the only thing we can go back and grab, because we're leasing them town property, so we're giving them $4.25 million at the onset, and then we have nothing to back that up. So actually, I apologize. Based on your request, we now have the plans, if those actually got completed. Now, there's just lots of exposure, like the fact that it can be locked up. The document for the option to lease says for $1, they can lock this up till 2030. So you were concerned about, it sitting there. Well, if they, wait for a grant cycle or wait for a change of administration to get things done, they can wait till 2030. So one thing I was looking for was some sort of milestones in there, or some sort of completion, some sort of actions being taken that show they're moving forward as opposed to sitting on it. So we don't just shell out a chunk of money. Once we get past, we get to the land, the other agreements here, we get the ground lease and the land development agreement. We're putting out $4.25 million with nothing to secure it until the building is built. Now, the plans are great, but the town is not a developer. We've all said that. It's a step in the right direction, but I think we can go a lot further. So it's not the intent to kill the deal. It's to make sure that we're looking out and we're getting some protections for the town. I can get over the 4.25 is a big ask. I can get over that. Again, we are getting 50 units. All but 5 of them are going to be at 60% AMI, which is great. So not all affordable. They do all count towards affordable housing stock, but not all will be affordable. So I can get around that. But there's just so much. It seems soft. It seems like a soft negotiation to me. And I understand that that is not a shot at Mr. Curran. He came in the middle of a negotiation and had a consultant come in the middle of a negotiation. And it sounded like some miscommunications when we had the last discussion with Kurt. There's just a lot of lack of clarity and not a lot of protection for the town for what we're shelling out. They're getting 99 years now of town property access and $4.25 million to build a building that is going to assess for less than half of that. I have questions. And I'm happy to put together a particular punch list, but I think there's more work to be done.
I'll ask through you, Mr. Chair, to Mr. Curran, at what point does our funding, to Mr. Mackey's point, what point does our funding go to the applicant? Again, our funding is part of a piece of the pie. So, this option to lease allows them to start to work with any grant funding, any bank funding or whatever for their initial plans and so forth. So again, they're not going to go out and spend all this money up front unless they know they have the long-term backing to put this over the finish line. I mean, it's going to cost, a significant amount of money to build these, because I know they're not building these things for $100,000 a unit. So there is some private funding, if you want to call it that, funding from whatever outside of our affordable housing funds that are being inputted into this project. So, you know, through Mr. Chair to Mr. Curran, at what point does that money come into play for this process?
I think they have to meet the preconditions of the option to lease, which is permits, financing, environmental clearance, and then I believe once they enter into the ground lease, that's when they start talking about that money, which, by the way, is backed with a mortgage. I mean, so, I mean, we do have a tool to try to recover that money as well.
And that's what I was looking for clarification on. So the money is not being handed to them until they have the permitting. They've invested money until they have the permits. And to get a permit, there's site plan, there's design documents. There's an investment by them to upfront some money and also make sure that they are meeting all of the requirements within this agreement. And that is having all of their funding. So if they don't have their funding, they're not getting our $4.5 million.
Like, if they don't meet the preconditions.
Correct. So
Financing is one of them. And then, obviously, permits is another, and environmental permits, those three are the biggest deals.
So there's, out of that, there's an investment by this group, their upfront costs on this.
Right.
So
But
they
if you
have,
recall, we originally, they wanted us to pay their upfront costs.
that's correct, and we
And we
pushed
took
back
that
on
out.
that. We pushed back on that. So at the end of the day, they invest all this money in design, environmental, and all of a sudden their funding falls through. Per this agreement, we have access, we own those plans. So at that point, if they default, we own the plans. We can bring another company in at that point and say, we have a full set of design documents ready to go, borne on the developer, not on the town. And they don't get our money until they meet all of those guidelines. So they're getting, so they meet the permit. They have funding. Everything's ready to go. Permits in hand, they're ready to build. That's when our money gets put into this, into the piece of our piece of the pie gets put into the project. Again, I can't see any developer is going to invest a significant amount of their own funds in all of that back end work to get it to almost to the finish line and not want to continue forward. And there is a process here. This is in any large development. This is going to take a little bit of time. So the longer we wait, the longer that gets pushed out. So we still have some security before we turn around and sign over the $4.5 million out of the Affordable Trust. And if they don't meet those guidelines, we're not giving them the money. Whether they don't get an environmental permit, their funding is backed out and they don't have a permit. And they can't get a permit until they met all those things under the site plan review. So they've already had to do all those other things with the environmental, and they're not going to come in and, you know, they'll push to the point of getting a permit, and then they, you know, whether it's grant funds or private investment, you know, these other investors are going to say the same thing. I'm not giving you any money until you get that permit in hand. And we have that surety in the document that we're not giving them any money until they are ready to go. That's a shovel-ready project at that point, that we're going to hand over $4.5 million when it's shovel-ready. I think we have those securities built into this. So we're not on the hook, as Mr. Curran stated. We pushed back on that. I know they wanted that money up front. We pushed back on that. And I think these agreements cover those things that we all pushed for. So that's where I stand on it.
If I may, so the financing section that we just talked ad nauseum about, and all valid points, again, I'm not disagreeing. If the document said that, I wouldn't be challenging the option to lease document specifically. But my big concern is a lot of this favors this new organization that Choice is going to be a part of. The preconditions we're talking about, the parties acknowledge and agree that the developer shall have no obligation to exercise the option until and unless the developer has satisfied the following. So the developer's option, there is no protective language for us. It's their choice to execute. Because this document, if we agree to execute it tonight, is tied to the LDA, which is tied to another document. So all these documents, as we said on the onset, are interconnected. I'm not saying that we don't move forward with the project. I'm just saying there's more work to do. If this preconditions reflected what you just walked through, I would 100% be okay with moving forward with just the option to lease. But that's not the case. And I went through these documents repeatedly, and I don't see anywhere, even across the documents, where that is laid out clearly. That's one of my concerns.
I'll put this back, through you, Mr. Chair, put it back to Mr. Curran. We just discussed and stated that they're not getting the funding until they meet these criteria.
Right, so I think, look,
And I understand this document goes to this document, leads to this document, but that's going to happen because these are all successor documents from this.
if you read the document, and as Select Board Member Mackey has stated, the way it's worded, it says, the parties acknowledge and agree that the developer shall have no obligation to exercise the option until and unless the developer has satisfied the following precondition. So it sounds like they control everything, but really, if you read the way that is, that means they have to meet those things. If they don't meet those things, there's no moving forward. So the onus is on them to meet these obligations to get to the next step. Mm-hmm. And so there's no risk, at least up until that point, there's no risk from the town until we actually hand some money over.
Correct.
But the big thing is that they have to satisfy those really difficult hurdles. One is getting this agreement, but there's other difficult hurdles that all the other financing they have to get, all the permits they have to get, and all the environmental things hoops they have to jump through. And once they get all those things in hand, there's a project really in the ready. Mm-hmm. And that's when our risk comes into play. And no doubt about it, there is risk. There's always risk. But I'll just say that this document, you're not going to be able to change or get this document. There is fatigue associated with this. It almost fell apart last week. So I don't want there to be the impression that we can go back to the table and work this out. We've been negotiating this for over a year. Mm-hmm. And, obviously they've invested money into it as well. And I think it's done. I mean, it's either ready to be acted on or it's not. The town doesn't want to do it, but I wouldn't recommend trying to go back to the table because that's just tantamount to killing the deal.
Well, we did have other options that were asking for a lot less money, and there are other options out there. That wasn't where I was going with this initially, but if it's we take what is here or the deal dies, then I am not in favor of the deal at that point, because that's not an acceptable negotiation tactic in my mind.
Well, Mr. Curran, the one thing that stands out to me while we're doing this and we've been looking at this is that this isn't a new developer. You know, they've developed other projects in other communities, and they've built these things. So that gives me a level of confidence that they know what to do. They've looked at financing, they put this thing together, they've succeeded in other communities building these type of places. And that's one of the reasons I like them to come in, because it was something that, it was going to be all senior housing. It was going to be something that they had experience building, and they have the knowledge to get it done. The need for the housing in this Commonwealth is through the roof, and we keep hearing about that, you know, about how we must do this and must do that, and, you know, they want it, the state wants us to build so many units and things like that. Here's something that we control, that we came up with the number, we came up with what we wanted, we came up with what type of housing we want, and we're using our own Affordable House Trust Fund to build something that came in fee in lieu of from developers, that we actually get to buy units for senior housing. I noticed back and forth of, you may not like this language or that language or whatever it is, but these type of things, that's the kind of, you know, this is the typical language of what goes on with these things. They've got a history of building these places. They got a history of succeeding. And you and the consultant, like I said, worked a long, long time on this. And I don't think that, you know, it's like, as you mentioned, it doesn't sound like you're going to get anything more at the end of the day if we sent you back to do it, and it's just going to delay the project even longer. When we got, like I said, we have a school that's sitting there, and there already are kids going on the building, and I've heard that they've had to chase them out of there numerous times. And I don't want to have a building sitting there much, much longer, and then leaving us at risk of dealing with that, where if we stop moving this forward, at least we have a project that's moving forward, and we have something to look forward for, to give hope for people that are sitting on that wait list. You know, that's my.
Through you, Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
if I may. Just for, you know, residents at home, we're sitting here talking about to satisfy the preconditions. Preconditions. 1, permits. They have to obtain all the permits. 2, the financing. The developer shall have obtained the financing commitments. The environmental clearances is number 3. 4, the escrow. Parties executed 2 original ground lease property. Then there's, you know, the 5th part. If the developer, in the event that the developer fails after using good faith and diligent effort to satisfy the preconditions, they have a right to terminate. They have to meet all the conditions. If they don't meet the conditions, it can be terminated, and they don't get any money. So they're not getting any of our money up front until they meet all of these conditions in the preconditions in the document. So, I mean, that is our protection. That's the town protection. And again, I don't see any developer today, as the chair stated, they've done other developments. I don't see this developer coming in and wanting to fail, because they have some onus in this game. They have stake. They've invested a lot of time in the permits. So involved in those permits, they have to have plans. They have to have financing. There are lawyer expenses involved in that. A lot of diligence on their end. The environmental clearances, there's investment on them to do that. There's going to be LSP involved in that, attorneys involved in that, the escrow, attorneys involved in that. So again, this group has a stake in the game before they get a check from the town. And if they don't meet those, they don't get a check. And that stands up in court. It's clear, black and white. We're not providing any money until they meet all of the preconditions. So I don't know what other securities we're looking for, other than it in black and white saying, you know, I mean, it says it in black and white, that we're getting, if they do not meet the preconditions, they can't move forward.
I don't disagree, but where, again, before that, it says the LDA. And the LDA is what says that the town Affordable Housing Trust shall provide a grant for the project in the amount of $4,250,000, which shall be advanced at the closing. So when we close on the lease, we're paying them. Now, they have to do some preconditions that they can choose to walk away from in the option to lease. But again, these documents are not clean. They are so interconnected and they cross-reference that if we were to execute one, I don't have comfort that we are in a secure spot. Again, I don't disagree with a lot of what is being said. It's just that the legal documentation is not clear. And if we want to talk about option to lease first, well, that says we're agreeing to the LDA simultaneously, and the LDA is what calls out that we will give them 4.25 million in advance at the closing. So there's just a lot of questions that need to be answered in my mind. Again, I'm not saying we kill the project. If asking for further discussion kills the project, well then maybe it wasn't meant to be, but that doesn't mean we should take a bad deal. And it also, it was mentioned that this organization has done a lot of these projects. Trahan School Residents Limited Partnership is not who we awarded this to. Choice is who we awarded it to, and Choice is going to be a 0.1% limited partner in this partnership. So they may be involved, but they presented, they are not who we chose through our selection process, and now it's going to a different organization that's going to sell the tax credits from it to do a lot of the funding to a hedge fund. So there's a lot that needs to be addressed here. So if we want to keep finding little things to get on about why it's a good thing, I agree. Senior housing is a good thing, and we need it. And this is a great site for it, for all the reasons that have been discussed. This deal, as it stands, is not the answer.
Do I have any other questions, comment? No. All right. Mr. Carmen, do you have any other comments?
Just, from 10,000 feet, I mean, the option to lease, it does lock up all the other agreements, but we would expect it to do that. I mean, nobody's going to sign on to a deal that, the goalposts are going to be moved, in 3 years from now. And you would expect that all of these are all locked in. They're all interconnected. They should be. That's how this is laid out. So the option to lease, the big thing about that is that they have to satisfy those preconditions. Once they satisfy those preconditions, they're going to enter into a ground lease with the town. And once that ground lease is entered into, yes, we have to provide the money, but there's also a construction schedule of 2 years that they are locked into once that happens. So there's a 2-year period where they have to get this work done. The big risk and the big period of variability is that period in between the option to lease and the actual ground lease, which we have very little exposure, if any at all, besides the money we've already spent for consultants. The other lease comes in that period of when you put a shovel in the ground and they have to build it in 2 years. But at that point, you get a developer that's invested millions of dollars in this, that's locked up all the funding. They're not going to not build the project. They're going to build the project like they've done in every other project they've done, that they have a clear history that they've displayed with this exact financial model. So this is, it's a complicated thing. I definitely agree, and it was a learning process for myself, but I think it will work, and it reaches the goal that the board and the town wanted, which was to provide senior housing to the community. And it wasn't easy to get there, and you know that, and I know it. So it's either you want to do it or you don't, and I think we need to move ahead on it.
Mr.
All right,
Chairman,
at this time- yep,
just one last thing, just a point of clarification, though, Ms. Kearney, because you did say that we are just executing the option to lease tonight. However, the other documents are essentially locked up.
All locked in,
So why are
yes.
we not executing? all-
Because why would we?
What other things are still left?
Well, actually, the terms of the ground lease won't change.
Right.
But we're not going to execute it until they've
Until
fulfilled
it's-
all their.
Okay.
Yeah.
That part's fine, but the other ones, the pilot, the land development agreement, like all those are going to come at the
Right.
point when we're
Right,
ready. Okay.
later on, when they get to the ground lease and the LDA.
All right, this time I'm going to open it up to, do we have any motions on this matter?
I mean, my opinion, I mean, I'll make a motion. I feel that, I mean, as Mr. Curran just stated, and I think it was, how you approach this, we do not have any exposure until they meet all of these guidelines. And then to that next is the ground lease. It's clear we don't have exposure. And I agree with you. Anyone that is doing this is investing, whether it's their money or private, a hedge fund or other grant funding, there's an investment here, a significant investment that they're investing prior to get to these milestones within this, the precondition milestones. And I can't imagine that someone is going to go through all of that effort and not move forward with this project.
Can I
They
ask
want it to succeed. Again, they're going to make money off this. No matter who we bring in, somebody's going to make money off of this, 100%. And many of us have stated, we're not developers. The town of Hudson we're not developers. This is a partnership. And we have some securities here before we implement funding our portion of the partnership
So
until we get to that.
so is that in the form of a motion? I just want to clarify.
Yes, so I will make a motion. Again, I just wanted to clarify
No, I
why
got you.
I felt
I
that I
just
was
want-
making
I
the
just want to have
motion.
it clear.
I just wanted to clarify why I was making the motion
Yep.
to approve the option to lease, which is ultimately going to, the domino effect when they meet the other conditions within the preconditions. So,
Point of clarification, so we're saying the motion is to approve the option to lease through the town manager. On this option to lease, it says, whereas simultaneously here within the town intended to enter into a land development agreement. So is that triggering the land development agreement?
So in the interest of transparency and so that people understand, I would suggest that the motion be motion to approve the documents and execute the option to lease. In that way, so there's a full understanding that the town is committing to all 4 documents and they're not really going to change and they'll be executed as they come to fruition.
okay.
Yeah.
Again, it's my opinion, and I think it's,
So are you good with that motion?
I am with
Okay.
that.
Do I have a second to that motion?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, I got a motion and a second. All those in favor, please state by saying aye.
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 Vehemently opposed.
Okay. So the motion passes 4-1. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, approval of select board revised meeting dates. I guess we had a little problem for next year. Election day falls on the November 3rd. So we have a couple of options here. Paul put some suggestions out. We can either do it on November 4th and then have one, we already have another one scheduled on the 17th. We can do the 10th and have 2 weeks in a row, the 10th and the 17th, or we can move both meetings to the 10th and the 24th and have the second one on Thanksgiving week. Usually what we do is if something like this happens, we try to keep it in the same week, so we try to move it to that either Monday or Wednesday. I don't know what options are. I suggest we move it to the Wednesday of that week, but if anybody else has any other concerns? What's that?
I would agree with that, just because it avoids the
Yeah.
2 weeks in a row, and then actually, if you go to the Thanksgiving week, we got 2 weeks in a row between that one and the first next.
It just gives people time if they have to, we don't know what's going to come in, if people have to put out public notices. If we have it a week apart, it doesn't give them some time to get what they need to do. If somebody doesn't meet the first week, at least they got 2 weeks to get it, so.
And I also think a meeting on that Tuesday of Thanksgiving is difficult for anyone that is traveling. They want to avoid the Wednesday travel, so the Tuesday, and I don't think it's,
All right,
want to
so
handcuff anyone in that.
So which one are you going
I'm
with?
going to make a recommendation that we move the meeting to Wednesday, November 4th. Is everybody okay with that?
I'm fine.
All right. All right, so it seems to be 5-all in conjunction, agreement with that. So we'll update Paula that we're going to move that meeting to November 4th.
Do you want that in a matter of a motion? And
Sure, if you'd like to. Yep.
Just
Go ahead.
from clarification,
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to adjust, move the November 3rd meeting to, on Tuesday, November 3rd, move to Wednesday, November 4th, 2026.
I got a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor, please state by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. All right, that's moved on. All right. Approval of renewal licensing signature procedure. Mr. Curran, you want to explain this to us?
Yeah, so the office is moving to OpenGov for these permits. So basically, really all it's doing is changing the format of the licenses, and you no longer will need to sign renewals. Your names will just be put on the document. You still obviously have, the most important thing is you voting to renew them. But they will just be issued with your names on them, unless they are new licenses, and then they will require your signatures. So I just wanted you to be aware of it ahead of time, so that when the process starts, it isn't that you didn't know it was coming, so.
Yeah, and I just want to clarify, we're still going to review
Yes,
all the licenses, so you're still going to go through the applications and all the things that come in from it. So you'll get to review it. It's just nobody has to show up here and sign, I don't know how many, 100 and something documents usually.
Yeah.
Some nights. So I think this is something that's a lot easier.
you'll just have to sign the new ones.
Yeah.
If I may,
Go
Mr.
ahead.
Chair, just OpenGov, is this going to be currently using OpenGov, or not specifically just for, we're implementing this just for the licenses? Are you currently using OpenGov?
We're using OpenGov and a whole bunch.
Okay, so that's why I just want to
Yeah.
clarify. So you're kind of bringing this portion of
Yeah,
OpenGov into the
another
license?
module, yes.
Yeah, okay, okay,
Okay.
thank you.
All right. So I'll listen to any motions on the matter. Anybody want to make a motion to approve this?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, I got a motion from Mr. Ryder, second by Mr. Mackey. All those in favor, please state by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. That is all set. The town manager report. Mr. Curran.
Okay, 937 North Street, the proposed hotel, 122-room hotel. I think demolition work has commenced on that. DPW is working with them on water connection, but that's project is moving forward. Just for next week, the next meeting, we will be doing the bond sale for the 6.9 million, which is 5.4 plus the 1.5, 5.4 for water distribution system rehabilitation, and 1.5, the last phase of the meter projects. And community food drive, just information for you and for the public, in lieu of, the difficulties with funding, the town, and many organizations do it. We're doing a community food drive to help anticipated increases in need in November. And so there'll be drop-off locations at Town Hall, the police station and library, DPW, and the Center Fire Station. It will continue through November 15th, and then we will in turn bring those donations over to the community food pantry for distribution. So just a little extra push to help during the holiday season and increase need. And then in the next meeting, as I said, you'll do the bond sale, but you'll also do the tax classification hearing. So those are the two big things coming up for that meeting. School facilities feasibility study. The RFQ process was completed and the work was awarded to JCJ Architects, and finalizing the contract with them right now. That's a $280,000 contract with them. The firm has considerable experience with feasibility studies in Massachusetts and also the MSBA process. I thought that the team they assigned was their A team based on the people that we got, which is something you like to look for. When you hire someone, you make sure you get they're good people. So that's it for that. The Board of Health will be meeting on the 20th of November to review the battery energy storage system proposal and provide commentary and feedback to be used during this process. So I will be attending that meeting as well, probably the fire chief as well, and I think we're going to try to present some information to help clarify for people that, it's a difficult process because it's really a state process. It's a permitting process that's being done through the state. So there's a lot of people are anxious because it's not taking place at the local level. So we're going to do, even though it's not taking place at the local level, we're obviously working as an intervening party to present our concerns and get what we need for safety out of that project if in fact it is permitted. So we're going to go to the Board of Health meeting and present what we're looking at the HCA, not all the money issues, but all the health and safety issues, because I think that's the primary concern for the public, and try to at least give some transparency and some clarity as to what the issues are, what we're looking to get addressed, and just as examples, like what kind of large-scale fire testing have they done, what type of plume testing have they done, what type of, what's the layout of the batteries, they have to be spaced so many feet apart, and then anything that has fuel in it that's combustible has to be in a certain location. Now, that's all defined by the NFPA standards, 855 standards. But, rather than just put that in, we want you to fulfill the standards. We want to provide further clarity and transparency for the public so that we will actually itemize a lot of these things that are required by the NFPA standards to help people understand that, these things are actually happening. They're just not happening the way they usually do at the local level because the permitting process is controlled by the state. So we will take feedback from the public at that point and any concerns of the board and the board members as well, and try to use that process to help get further information and further protections for the town through that process. The Shawshene Foster Beach intersection, there was a public information meeting on October 27th at 6:30, and it was roughly 25 people that attended. That project is on the Transportation Improvement Plan for 2030, so it's a little ways off, but that's one of the requirements is having a public meeting. So I think that went fairly well. And then I had some department head meeting notes. The police chief offered information on sensory training to department heads for sensory divergent conditions of the public. The fire chief is putting an old ambulance out to bid. We're scheduling a fire captain's assessment center on schedule for April 7th. NEMREC did an excellent job responding to calls on the town trails, and that has prompted an interest in briefing NEMREC staff on trail configurations by members of conservation, so we'll move ahead with that. Snow and ice rates are finalized, getting ready for, unfortunately, as Eric, getting ready for the winter. The rates are the same, but the incentives have been enhanced. So that's what's happening with that. A meeting is being scheduled with Verizon to talk about potential cell tower locations. I actually did meet with them, I think it was yesterday, virtually, and they were looking at 5 different areas that may or may not have potential, but I'll keep the board up to date on that. Verizon has poor coverage in the north part of town, so that's really where all these things are being looked at. So, and we did, there was a Mass Broadband Initiative Program grant that was not funded, and it was rejected due to non-compliance with the MBTA Communities Act. So that's the first one that we've seen that is any evidence of impact by the MBTA Communities Act. And that's it.
Mr. Chair, just like one follow. What was the value of that grant?
30,000.
Okay. And one other thing, Mr. Chair, while we're on the manager's report, with the Board of Health meeting on the 20th, this room will probably be very crowded, understanding
Yes.
it's probably, this is a very closely watched and sensitive topic for a lot of residents. Is this something we may want to look at having in a larger venue that can handle a crowd that is not going to be able to be heard and much more comfortable? Is something we look at maybe getting the high school if it's available?
I can look into that,
I
yes.
think just, there's a lot of interest with this, and I think it would be a benefit to the residents that having a comfortable place to sit in this room, and for all, whether other board members or the public wants a place that can hear properly and fit everyone, because this will be at capacity very quickly.
Yes, I'll talk to the chairperson of the Board of Health and see if they are open to that. And we'll reach out to the high school.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Scott, I only have one last thing on this. Thank you for the update, but usually when we get closer to snow and ice season, we have the DPW come in and do a presentation on how they're doing and what's going on, and how they're doing with high-end vendors and what they're going to do for sidewalks and what they got. I think it would be beneficial if we try to figure out and schedule that at one of our.
Okay, when do you do that? Usually in this November
It's usually
meeting?
before the season starts out. He'll come in and say, this is what we're doing, this is what we're doing, this is how many sidewalks we have, so many sidewalks, this is
All
what
right.
we're doing. It's typical that he's done in the past, come in, and I think it just be beneficial, especially with the new installation of sidewalks. Have something been added? Do we have new equipment that will be able to handle it? A couple of the things that residents may have some concerns about in, how we're going to handle the snow and ice season.
Okay.
All right, anybody else have any questions of town manager? No? Okay. Town council invoice.
Okay, so the September 16th to 30th invoice from Healy and Brown is $3,995. And that's it.
Do I got any motions on that? Madam?
Motion to approve the invoice from 9/16 to 9/30 in the amount of $3,995.
Do I have a second on that?
Second.
Second. Motion and a second. All those in favor, please state by saying aye. Aye. Chair votes aye as well. All right. Then we're on to minutes. It doesn't appear we have any minutes. Board member reports. I'll start with you, Mr. Hollander.
I have nothing, sir.
Mr. Mackey?
Nothing at this time.
The current covenant.
But I would like to take a moment, if you may. Want to congratulate all of the Tewksbury High School athletic teams that have moved on to MIA playoffs. Also like to congratulate the boys football team, finished 8-0 on the season, and moving on to playoffs this Friday night at Doucette Field. So again, congratulations to all the teams, and it's been, I believe it was 2013 since the last time the football team went undefeated. So it was a great season, and looking forward to the playoffs. So congratulations to all.
Thank you. The only thing I have is, I just want to thank Lisa Downey, our veterans agent, and our VFW, and everyone. I hope we're going to have some Veterans Day services coming up in the next couple of weeks. If you go on the town website, you'll find what's going to happen, what times they're doing. They're doing a breakfast, they're doing the ceremony out in the town center, all those things. And I also want to thank all the board members. We had a young lady that turned 104 the other day. I was able to go and celebrate and came into that. The police department came in. It turns out that her husband was on the Boston Police Department for 20 years on the bomb squad, and she just had a She loved of police officers. When the police officers came in, she was glowing. And then she explained to us that she had to hurry up with all this stuff because she was going to dance class. So that's pretty impressive.
That's awesome.
Of what she was up to. I was amazed at her energy. And I just want to thank everybody for signing that citation. She was very, very happy, as well as was the whole family. So I want to thank the board. All right, at that, I got nothing else. A motion to adjourn from Mr. Russo. Do I get a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Mackey. All those in favor, please state by aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. We are adjourned.